We are at Audio Advice in Raleigh, North Carolina for an unveiling of the new MartinLogan Motion and Motion XT series. We got CEO Scott Newnam. How you doing, my friend?
Doing great. So great to have you, Eugene.
Awesome. That's what we're going to be talking about in today's video. Hey folks, I'm Gene Della Sala with Audioholics. We are going to be talking about this incredible experience that I'm having at Audio Advice. I'm like a kid in a candy store. There's so much stuff to look at here. I'm overwhelmed. I'm completely overwhelmed. You guys have demo room after demo room. You've got so many incredible brands. But today we're focusing on MartinLogan. The Motion Series have been out for over a decade now, right? They've been constantly iterating it and improving it. This is their best series yet. They put a lot of technology into these products. We're going to have a separate video on all the details on that. But I want to talk to you about this room. This is an incredible room here. We're looking at, basically, it's a 5.2.6 system, if I'm correct.
That's correct, exactly.
So why don't you give us a rundown of what you did in this room? I want to talk about the acoustics. I want to talk about the speakers, the electronics. There's so much to talk about. We just heard a demo. I was very impressed by it. So Scott, take it away. Tell us what's going on.
Yeah, you bet. So the concept was, with the launch of these speakers, you know, everyone goes into stores like Audio Advice and they flock in to hear new speakers. And usually you're sitting in and just listening to, you know, two-tower speakers. And we thought, my gosh, with all that they've done to make multi-purpose speakers and make this work both for audio and home theater, let's set up a room that would not be a traditional dedicated home theater room, because frankly, as you know, most people don't have dedicated home theater rooms. So this room is designed to be like a room, even though it's in our showroom, that you might have at home, where you've got problems, you've got a vaulted ceiling, we've got glass over there so you can't put sides. So maybe let's start with what's going on up front. So we started with the XT series, which is the higher end series of the Motions. And you'll see we've got the flagship towers here. These are the F200s that we talked about before. These have a new folded motion tweeter that we were talking with their engineers about. This has a full 90-degree dispersion coming out of this tweeter. And as many of you know, if you followed, you know, either electrostats or folded motion, you get incredible performance and efficiency out of these versus a traditional dome tweeter. And then we've got a 6.5-inch mid-range here. This is actually Kevlar with Nomex reinforced, and then 3 aluminum woofers, 8-inch each. So you and I were talking before when we were just, you know, watching some clips here.
Yeah.
This thing's a full-range speaker.
Oh yeah. Well, one thing I really like about the speaker, and this is 2 advantages to this, they have a port that's underneath the cabinet. 2 advantages there is a lot of speakers that are rear ported, you can't put them too close to a wall, right?
That's right.
This solves that problem because the port's underneath, but also because the port is underneath the cabinet. It acts as a low pass filter. So if there's any kind of chuffing, which we didn't hear any of, it would filter that out. It's a very clean way to get bass from a ported speaker. And 888s like that, that's a lot of surface area to really dig down deep.
Yeah, these go down to like 27 hertz. So I mean, for most people, this is all they need. Most people don't even need woofers in this room, although you'll see in a second we added some extra subs as well to make this fun. So we've got these sitting here as our left and right. There's a matching center channel here with this same, this is called the Gen 2 Obsidian Folded Motion Tweeter, and the matching mid-ranges. Now, you and I were talking before, one of the problems that people have with center channels is you get a lobing effect when you have a couple of mid-ranges. So this is a 2.5-way speaker. And what that means for those of you that haven't spent any time going into that, this particular driver's crossed over at 1300 hertz. This one, which is the same size drivers, crossed over at 2500 hertz.
Right.
And what that allows you to do is basically have an anti-lobing feature so you don't have lobing effects back in seating position.
And both drivers play the bass, so you get some bass sensitivity increase by having 2 drivers doing that.
Exactly. So, so at the base level, they're exactly the same. And then as they move up, they cross over separately. The other thing that's really neat about this center, and I don't know if you can see from there, but the center right now is playing straight forward because it is basically at ear level. However, if you had a lower cabinet, you can flip this over and it's angled and it angles them up. So they've really sort of thought about the design of this particular speaker.
Now, in all honesty, what I would have done in this case is I would have put some isoacoustic feed on it.
We talked about that before. So actually, Leon, the founder of Audio Advice, he and I were debating it because we do carry isoacoustics. It would make total sense to put them on here. I was like, I just want to show people what it sounds like right on this. But you're exactly right. If you're doing something like this, creating that isolation makes total sense. And you'll see those at audioadvice.com as well. Okay, so that's the front here, and we should probably talk about the video for a second.
Oh yeah.
Big screen, right?
Incredible, incredible.
So, we love projection, and we love the value of playing, speakers through a screen, et cetera. But now we've got cases like in this room where we really can't put speakers in the back wall. This is actually within the showroom to show people in our experience center. There's no place to put the projector. So this is a 100-inch Sony television. It's the XR 100. And it's beautiful. It's beautiful. So anyways, that's the video side of it. Then what we've got, there's no place to put sides. So we put surrounds in the back corners, and I think it's a great way. We're going to have people coming through here all day today listening to this system, and we're trying to show people that don't have the perfect room. What do you do? Mm-hmm. And we actually played around, interestingly, because they're in the back corners, trying them as both rears and surrounds. And 100% everyone we brought through testing it preferred them as surrounds in the setup in what is the Anthem 1140. So this is driven by the 1140 Anthem receiver. Now, so that sort of handled that side. You mentioned .6. Mm-hmm. So it's unusual to have a 5-channel bed layer and then have 6 in the ceiling. But one of the concepts of this room is for people that walk in and say, you know what, I really want great audio. And the surround sound's secondary to me. This room I want is 2-channel, but boy, there'd be a great way to enable me to have surround sound. So what we did, MartinLogan has this MP10, which is their multi-purpose speaker. Super, super cool. That speaker can be set on a shelf, and it's very narrow. So if you have a small room, you can fit it in as a side or a rear, or you can mount it to the wall. But what's really cool about it is the way the port is set up. They can angle down. They angle at a 20-degree angle. And so as we looked at when we were watching, these basically are sitting on wall in the front, playing directly at the seating position. What'd you think in terms of having them angled versus an in-ceiling that's maybe playing straight down?
Yeah, so I personally, when I set up home theaters, I like my Atmos speakers when they're in the ceiling in a tighter formation to the listening area for that very reason that you're talking about. Because when you put them at 45 degrees and you fire them down, you don't get that direct high frequency energy as well as you want in the listening area. This is another alternative that you could do, because if you can't put them in the ceiling, if you're renting or if you have vaulted ceilings, this is pretty ideal because it has the right angle and it's hitting the listening area. And I thought it actually sounded really well. Yeah,
so you've got this vaulted ceiling here, so no great place for Atmos in ceilings. So we did these in the front. Now what we did, we had to be careful because everything that was set up in the room, we did rears that are on the wall, but when we set them up in the Anthem, they're actually set up as in ceilings because they're exactly in the correct location for in ceilings. Mm-hmm. And then we did sides. Now, one real cool thing we were talking about, Art Genesis does not allow you to do 6 height speakers if you don't have 7 bed layer, because most people that are doing 6 heights have already got at least 7 bed layer, maybe even front wides and maybe 9. So what we did, we actually connected 2 additional speakers that are not in this room now, ran Art Genesis with it, then went back into the Anthem once it was done and took out those rears, and it allowed us to run all 6 in the ceiling.
You jerry-rigged it.
But it actually works out perfectly. It turns out to be a great demo for people to experience with it set up this way.
So one thing I have a question for you on, I love the 1140. As you guys know, I use the 1140 in the Audioholics Smart House master bedroom, and I run it with a clip system and JL Audio in-ceiling subs. The Arc Genesis is awesome on it. The only problem that I saw with the 1140 is it's not greatly suited for 4-ohm speakers like some of the other flagship receivers are. All of these speakers are 4-ohm. I didn't hear any dynamic problems. I thought it sounded great. Are you giving any boost to the front sound
Great
stage?
question.
I want to know what's going on there.
Yeah, so basically every speaker in here for the most part is about 4 ohms, and these are all running about 92 dB sensitivity. What we do, part of what, as I was saying in this room that we're trying to show, a lot of people that want this kind of concept, I want great stereo, secondary is Atmos. What we'll often do is put in an amp for the front channels. So in this case, we actually have a 325 Anthem amp, which is an incredible amp running the front three all together, and then the 1140s handling all the other channels.
I thought that worked really well. I mean, this system is extremely dynamic, very clean, no noise. I mean, it just sounded very crystal clean to me in here. And part of that is what you're doing in this room. You have some really nice acoustic treatments. Maybe you could talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so this is all acoustics treatment. So everything I'm going through today, obviously you can see in one of our showrooms if we've got one near you, but also online. We sell acoustics online, and you'll see we've got the cinema rounds, which basically handle sort of mid frequencies to upper frequencies. Those are designed to be at the first reflection points. And then we've also got a mixture of some diffusion in the back, and then some panels that have a mixture of diffusion capability and absorptive, which work. Actually, this room naturally has terrible acoustics. And it's really fun to show people that you have a room like this that was originally not designed to do this, but how can you make it great? Which is what I think a lot of people at home are trying to figure out.
And I think you did really intelligent acoustic layout in here. You put diffusion on the back wall. Typically, I like diffusion on the back wall if the seating area is at least 4 to 6 feet away from the back wall. But if you get closer, I tend to put more absorption there, and they have those options as well that you could do.
Correct. So the other thing, you and I were talking about bass in here, because these towers have the ability to go all the way down and run full range. However, because we can, and we all like great bass, we added a pair of the 1100X MartinLogan subs in here in the front corner. So we're talking about, where do you place them aesthetically, and for, again, showing people what you could do in a normal room. We put them in the two front corners. You heard them, they were crossed over in the surround sound setup, but when you go to 2-channel, they're not. And it does a great job not over bassing the room and blending in, I think, really well.
Usually when I go to like CEDIA or I go to other demos or trade shows, they always goose the bass 10, 20 dB, and it becomes overbearing and you can't really focus on the sound of the equipment. I was relieved that you had such a good balance here. The bass wasn't overbearing, it was tight. Anthem Arc Room Correction just does a fantastic job of integrating the speakers with the subs, but you didn't goose the bass levels. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, a lot of times, people will buy Anthem from us or go around the country and they'll set it up, and people are so used to going somewhere where they've over-bassed it, and people might first say, oh my gosh, like I don't hear as much bass if I've run it, Frank, whether it's Anthem Room Correction or any correction system. And usually what we'll tell them is, live with it for a couple weeks. And most people, after they do that, find, oh my gosh, actually, this is not fatiguing now. Because it may sound good for 5 minutes over-bassed, but to sit and watch a 2-hour movie, it's not. Now, we do find most people, we will use a little bit of room gain, a tiny bit, or someone will send to us and says, I still want more, and we will modify their file for them and send it back, or we'll talk them through it. And in this room, we barely did just a tiny bit of room gain and tiny bit of bass boost, because we want people to actually see, what is it like when it's right?
Yeah, no, I thought it was really well balanced. The room is beautiful. I love this option that you can mount these speakers with the angle on them, and the tweeter has great coverage, so they really work well as a height channel. Plenty of dynamics, plenty of sensitivity out of them. A lot of these little on-wall speakers that you stick up in the ceiling are like 85 dB sensitive. They can't keep up with the rest of the channels. I think every speaker in the line is like 92 dB or above.
That's right. They're all like at 92. That's right.
So that's awesome. Guys, please check out the brand. We're going to do more coverage of this. We're actually going to do a review of these flagship towers and potentially give them away in the future. So stay tuned to Audioholics. Scott, I appreciate you giving us this knowledge here, showing us your awesome demo room. Guys, if you like this video, please thumb it up, hit the like button. Don't forget about our Patreon channel at patreon.com/Audioholics. We appreciate your support. You get direct access to me if you want to suggest video topics or ask questions. And until next time, my friends, keep listening.